So it's our pleasure to be here, and my name is Juha Kahila, and I'm the lead coordinator of the National Housing First Development Network. And here with me is the coordinator, Mr. Juha Soivio. You can, Juha, wave your hand so everybody can see you. That's nice. And our title today is No More Shelters and Permanent Housing as a Key to Ending Homelessness in Finland. And I think that the No More Shelters says it all, what we're going to talk about in the next minutes. But I'm going to start with this slide. This is one of the last shelters in the city of Helsinki, which was closed down in 2009. But I think the key lesson here is that this shelter was built in early 1990s, and it was the state-of-the-art shelter, and it was supposed to be a temporary solution. So not more than 2 or 3 years, and then it would be shut down. But at the end of the day, it was up and going 20 years. So usually temporary solutions tend to be pretty permanent solutions. So that's good thing to remember. And so this really was state of the art shelter. So you can imagine what the other one looked like. And here is homelessness in Finland in the recent numbers. So we have been the only EU country where the numbers have been going down. And we like to say EU country because also in Norway, the numbers of homeless people have been going down, but because Norway is not part of the EU, so that's how we can say that we are the only country in the EU. But still in the situation, the last countdown was made in 2019, and we still have nearly 5,000 homeless people, and every one of them is one too many. But I think in Finland, the different thing when we compare where homeless people live in different countries, that the 70% of the homeless people, they live temporarily with friends and relatives. So in the streets, there are not that many people living at the moment. I think somewhere between 200 or 300 people in all around Finland that are living on the streets or in the shelters. But I think we're going to get the numbers from 2020 in next January, so we'll see what's the trend is going to be like. Here is just the statistics that the number of single homeless people have been going down, and at the same time, the Y Foundation apartments have been going up. And here is a few slides from the Y Foundation where me and Juha come from. So founded by 1985. I think the most important thing here is that the 5 largest cities in Finland and also the Confederation of Finnish Construction Industries and Finnish Construction Trade Union. So they have been founded partners in Y Foundation. And what we do, we buy and construct affordable rental housing. And at the moment we have some, I think nowadays it's almost 200 employees. And here is the organizational structure. So at the end of the day, at the moment we have almost 18,000 apartments, and we have M2 homes, which is like the normal social housing, and then we have Y homes. We have now, I think the number is 7,000 apartments, which are targeted for homeless people or those who are threatened by homeless. But the M2 homes, 11,000 apartments, just normal social housing for people with low income. I'm just gonna write these slides quickly. The financing, where the money comes from, Y Foundation. We can share these slides with all of you, so I'm not gonna stick around the financing slides for a very long time. And we also have ongoing activities in Y Foundation. Housing Advice Service is one of the most important ones because they have doing amazing jobs in the prevention of evictions and security support services if necessary. So that is one of the key things at the moment in the field of homelessness in Finland. And also URAS project. So we try to find pathways to employment for our tenants. So we try to hire them to the Y Foundation or find them jobs from private companies. That's very important. And me and Juha, we are working at the Housing First Development Network, and we are coordinating the national development work regarding Housing First. And then, of course, Housing First Europe Hub is very important part of the Housing First development work in Europe, and you can go check it out in housingfirsteurope.eu. And then we have also C-Tribe, NIA, securing housing for women. And then we have research. We have 2 researchers as well. And then we have Velaton project, which is developing tools to help tenants to avoid money problems. But now we get to the actual housing first. So the implementation of housing first in Finland. We have had 2 national programs on long-term homelessness between 2008 and 2015. And those 2 programs were made with really wide partnership. There was involved state ministries, and actually it was coordinated by the Ministry of Environment. All the big cities were involved, and the big NGOs, both on the local and national level. And I think with the cities, one of the most important things was that we made a letter of intent with cities. So there was really specific targets and resources for the cities, what they have to do. So for example, in city of Helsinki, it was said that you have to build 2,000 apartments for ex-offenders, for example. So it was really, really clear targets what should be done. And then was also the introduction of the Finnish housing first, and we started the systematic change. So I know that in many European countries, there are many pilot projects and small scale projects, but we did it another way. So we completely changed the system at the beginning. So we get rid of all the shelters and we convert them to the supported housing units. And there are going to be a few slides about those units in a bit. And so we made it clear that we want to get rid of temporary housing and we want to move to permanent housing because we think that is fair for everybody, especially the homeless people who are living in those temporary solutions. Of course, what had to be done is also more resources for support work and then measures how to prevent homelessness, and housing advice has been one of the key things in that case. So we want to halve the long-term homelessness by 2011 and end it by 2015. We didn't quite get there, but I think the results overall were very good. We wanted to convert all the shelters and dormitory type hostels into supported housing units. And in that one, we did a great job, as you can see in a few minutes. And of course, reinforcing the housing first approach as a mainstream so that people would learn not to work anymore with the staircase model and adapt the housing first approach as the main idea how we're going to continue to work with the homelessness. And as I said before, we have very good quantitative targets. So target was to have 2,500 new apartments, supported housing units, and I think we did quite good. So over 3,500 new apartments built or bought to homeless people, 300 new professional support workers in housing social work. Housing advice services has been upscaled nationwide, and the housing first principle as we in Finland understand it has been established and is doing okay at the moment in Finland. Of course, there's still a lot to be done, but at the moment we are in a quite good spot. And shelters and hostels have been replaced by supported housing. And after those 2 programs, we had the action plan to prevent homelessness 2016-2019. And there was one of the key things that we learned how to really measure it, because you can't end homelessness if you can't measure it. So then we had the tools how to prevent it. And as I said before, the housing advice work has been one of the key elements here. So we have been able to prevent evictions, and that's been really the key thing. So as you can see, in 2018, there was 4,500 evictions prevented by housing advice work. And here is some of the money things about those plans. And I'm not going to go through all the numbers and all the millions, but I think the main thing here is to understand that first you have to spend money, and at the end of the day, you're going to be able to save money. But if you don't spend the money, then you're not saving the money at all. But like I said, you can have these slides so you can look them through more clearly. And here is again a chart chart of the homeless people who live alone in Finland. So you can see the trend has been quite good, but like I said, there is still a lot of work to be done. And I think this is very interesting slide because housing options for homeless persons in Helsinki. And because most of the homeless people, they tend to live in big cities, and Finland is no exception. So most of the homeless people are in Helsinki. And as you can see, in 1985, we have had over 2,000 hostel and shelter bed places. Over 2,000, and nowadays we have only 52. So we really put effort to have those independent, low-cost rental apartments, and then we made the change from hostels and shelters to supported housing units, and that's how we get those supported housing unit places. Not only the units, we have also scattered housing, and that is the main thing, but also the units have been playing a pretty significant role in our success. But I think this gives you a good example that how dramatic the change actually was. And what really made the change possible? Well, you need to have stick and you need to have carrot. So we had the state money for building new housing for homeless people and converting those shelters to supported housing units. Then we had state money to hire new support workers because at the end of the day, housing first cannot work without support workers. And then cities, for example, city of Helsinki made a big change how they were buying services from organizations. So if you weren't doing housing first, the city of Helsinki wouldn't buy any services from you whatsoever. So that played a huge role in this systematic change. So it was clear that okay, if you're not doing housing first, we are not going to buy your services. So in a way, there was the stick and there was the carrot. So there was money available, but you have to make that change. And then the coordination, combining the targets and resources, but also the commitment at the political level was very important. And I think that the homelessness and housing first is one of the few things that all the political parties agreed from left to right. They all feel the same, that we really need to end homelessness, and it's no way of life if you don't have a home of your own. And in Finland, we have been doing a lot of collaboration and working together. So cities, state, NGOs, housing companies, we really are working together because at the end of the day, you can't end homelessness by yourself. You need all these parties to be involved in the same table. And of course, you have to have people with the lived experience in the work and developing the work, because they have also one of the best knowledges of the situation on the streets. And here is a little bit more about the shelter renovation, why we wanted to do it and what made it possible. We think that if you live in a hostel or shelter, is always a temporary solution. You are still homeless because you don't have a home of your own. You don't have your own key to your own apartment. You don't have your own peace. You're basically still homeless. You're just living in a temporary solution. Usually no privacy, very limited professional help for your problems or challenges. And in Finland, we think that hostels sustain a culture of irresponsibility because you don't have a home of your own. It's like prison-like subculture. And also what we have learned, that when we did the renovation to supported housing units, it has also increased the public safety, because usually the areas where the shelters where the neighborhood could be quite restless. But when we did the renovation, the public safety has increased. And state grants for the renovation was 50%, that was the carrot, and the stick was the obligation to work according to housing first principles, which Juha is going to tell you more about in a bit. And of course, systematic training for personnel, because they had been working with the staircase model, and they had to be taught the new way of working, so that also took time. And this is one of the shelters that we had, Väinölä in Espoo, city of Espoo, and it looked like this. And after the renovation, it looked looks like this at the moment. So there is 33 individual apartments. They have their own rental contracts, and 35 tenants are living there at the moment. And it's built by Y Foundation, where we work, and is leased to City of Espoo, and the support is provided by Salvation Army. So there is on-site staff 24/7 available if needed. But all of the tenants, they don't need any support, but because it's housing first, they can live there as long as they want. You don't have to move out when you don't need the support anymore. And this is what the flats look like. And this is Alppikatu 25, near city center of Helsinki. And it was one of the biggest shelters in Helsinki, 250 bed places since 1936. And 2012, it was renovated to supported housing unit. So now there is 81 independent rental apartments, 88 residents living there at the moment, and there is also personnel on site by Salvation Army. So and the building, it looks like any other building on that neighborhood. So you really can't know that, okay, there is that supported housing unit. No, it's like any other building on the neighborhood. And here is one of the best slides in my own opinion, because it really shows the difference between short-term and long-term solutions. And I think that the short-term, the temporary solutions, shelters, etc., they are the easy road, because you can always build another shelter and it is going to be on for 2 or 3 years, but yeah, at the end of the day, they're going to be there, 20 years or something like that. And it's the easy way. And hostels, I think they're kind of the same short-term solutions, easy to build, easy to get going, but at the end of the day, they don't solve the problems. They don't solve anything. So if you really want to have the permanent solutions, you have to have supported housing units, or then you have to have scattered housing with the support available. Those take a lot of work, and you really have to dig your hands on the dirt, and you have to spend money at first, but at the end of the day, the number of homeless people are going down, and you end up saving money also. And we think that's the only way to work from now on, because we have seen the shelters and the hostels, and that's not option for us anymore. And the only way to end actually homelessness is housing first, in our opinion. But now I'm gonna shut up and give the table to another Juha. Go ahead.
Thank you, Juha. You will be changing the slides, but I will do the talking from now on. Okay, here is a list of some of the critical elements of ending homelessness. Like Juha said, that housing first has to be in a wide mainstream policy. In order to succeed, you have to have the state and the cities and the NGOs doing it and sharing their views. Another critical point is to have the permanent housing solutions, not the temporary ones, as Juha was talking about. And then you should have different solutions, because people have different needs. They have different challenges in their living and in their housing. So we have different kind of housing solutions. Like we have units with many tenants in them, and then we have this scattered housing options also. And they are the choices made on the basis of the needs of the tenants. And of course, you should have affordable social housing, and this is the kind of preventional work that we do. We try to prevent homelessness on a large scale, not just find solutions for the people on the street, but also for the people who are still having homes but are have a threat of being evicted or have trouble in finding the money for the rent. And about implementation, the wide partnership is very, I think it's the main point in this slide, that the state and the cities and the NGOs work together, and they have quite of equal access to the discussions and the setting the goals for this work and the targets for this work. And like we are running with Juha, we are running this network, and everything we do is free of charge, so anyone can take part and become part of this work. And then of course, like Juha was giving the example of making the targets very clear, that you should, in the beginning, you should kind of say that we should have 200 or some number of homes to ex-offenders, and then you kind of set it and then you work towards it. So in the end you can measure how you have been succeeding. Yep. And the time span. There has been a lot of discussion in Europe since, say, 2010 about getting rid of homelessness, but it's still running on the pilot basis or running some projects. But we think that you have to start acting right away. So you just try to work immediately to get the apartments and the homes and turn the shelters into homes. So yeah, that's the basic message, that act now. Okay, and the general housing benefit is also part of preventing homelessness and making it possible to people have to keep their homes. Could I have another slide? Juha is probably having some problem here.
It doesn't change the slide. Now.
Okay. Housing first. Yeah, we think it's a basic human and social right that everyone should have their own homes. You can't kind of try to fix your lives unless you have a proper home. And one of the key principles here when we started this work was the normalcy principle, that if we give apartments or homes to people, they shouldn't be anything kind of special, but they should be in normal surroundings and permanent homes. That people have the chance to live as normal as they can. And this means own independent rental apartment, either in the scattered housing or in supported housing units, like Juha was showing the pictures of the shelters turned into housing units. This is what is meant by housing unit here. But it doesn't change the basic idea that if you live in scattered housing or in supported housing unit, in both places you have your own rental contract, and this is usually made for an unlimited time, so you can live there as long as you want to, so that there's no need to make any restrictions in time. And it's also very important to give the support needed by our tenants. People have different, like I said, people have different needs and challenges, and the support should be tailored in to meet these different needs, so that they could go on living in these apartments. Yep. And you can have the rental contract without any conditions, that like you don't have to quit using substances or change your lifestyle in order to get this rental contract. You can have the contract, and then the needed support is given to the tenant. Okay. The next slide, please. You've probably heard or are familiar with the Housing First pathways from New York by some chambers. And here is a slide to show some of the differences between Housing First in Finland and the Housing First pathways created in New York. They talk about customer choice, and in Finland it's the same idea, but we stress the self-determination and autonomy of our tenants. And in house pathways, they use the ACT team, but here in Finland, we try to, according to the principle of normalcy, we try to have all the basic social and health services to our tenants, and with this intensive case management, try to get all the benefits and the treatment that are provided to all of the citizens here. Let me see what should be here. Yeah, and ways it's focused on scattered housing, but we use different options like scattered housing and supported single site units. So there's more option for the homeless people with different needs, and no hostels, like you have made it quite clear, and no emergency shelters. And then there has been a lot of new construction to get the needed apartments. And one great difference is that we don't do this kind of project-based Housing First projects. We started it immediately on the program level, that we made the decisions on the policy and state level right away. Okay, Juha, please. The next. You can't have Housing First without having housing, and you can guess the next one first. Yes, and that's quite self-evident. You have to have apartments in order to get into Housing First, and all of the support needed in Housing First. Okay, let's move on. Some words about the systemic approach. Like I said, the street homelessness or rough sleeping is not the only people we are talking about. We are also working hard on preventing people from becoming homeless and ending up in the street. So housing benefit is one tool in this, and the housing advisory services, which means that the people can turn to professionals to get some advice not to be evicted, and to have support in managing the rents and all the things that are included in living or having a rental home. Yep, we have been talking about ending homelessness with building houses or housing, and then support like housing benefit and the intensive case management in relation to basic social and health services. And Juha was talking about the employment services, trying to get jobs for our tenants. And again, this main idea that permanency is the key to ending homelessness and minimizing the temporary solutions. Yes, let's move on. Well, some of our successes with our Housing First work, we have managed to reach the retention rate to 80 to 95%. And this means that this amount of people have been successful in keeping their apartments with the needed support. And I think this is quite amazing, that people who used to be thought of being unable to live in normal housing have been successful in keeping their homes. One of the successes has been this mind shift that we try to kind of reach equality, like having an equal dialogue with the clients and build the services based on their specific needs. This has been a huge mind shift from using the power of like social workers to tell what the client has to do to get his life in orderly way, and a lot of work has been done to get rid of this unnecessary, we call it unnecessary power, to meet our clients on an equal basis. A national development network on Housing First is the place we with Juha work, and we train people. We have pilot projects, and the main idea is to connect people like from different service producers and the cities and the municipalities and the tenants also. We invite them to come and discuss and plan and make things happen. And this is also on equal basis, and it's free of charge, so everyone can take part. And we have joined our forces with Housing First Europe Hub. They also train professionals and they have research activities, and we do work in close interaction with them. But as there are successes, there are also challenges. We are still working to get housing from the private market. It's quite difficult, and most homeless people live in Helsinki. I'm looking at the watch, so maybe we should skip the yeah, this one point from here. Building trust requires time. It's when people get apartments or homes, it doesn't change their life quickly. You have to work intensively for a couple of years, maybe giving the right support. But let's move on because the time goes by. Social housing in Finland. It's 13% of the total housing stock, and normally it's 25% in new housing areas in cities, but depending on the cities, it's 35%. Here are some numbers you can study afterwards, but social housing is a necessary social infrastructure to prevent people from coming homeless. Okay. This is a picture of a new area, and the yellow one is a social housing house, but the point here is that it's like the other ones. There's nothing special. It doesn't, stick from the environment. It's part of the normal living neighborhood. Okay. Here is the study you could read. I highly recommend it about the protection of and how. Yeah. Okay. Jallukka is one of the examples of Y Foundation social housing. It's a house with 74 apartments, and especially 25 apartments are reserved for low-income rock musicians and people in the music industry. It's quite a nice place. Okay, let's move on. Juha showed the homelessness, how we have been successful in reducing the number of homeless, and our government has decided to halve the rest of the homeless in 2023, and we will reach zero in 2027 if everything goes well. Yep, some requirements: affordable social housing, unconditional independent housing with support, and then this kind of nice this point of no return. In Finland we have reached a point of no return, which means that the new professionals that are trained, they are not familiar with the old system anymore. They are trained into housing first, and they are quite used to it. No questions or no. Of course there are questions, but that's the way they work. And the last point, that the time that remains means that we should do the things we can to reduce homelessness now, because in 10 years we will have other very great challenges like the climate change, which will make it even more harder. So we should act now. Here's an excellent book to read. Highly recommend it. And these are the publications by Y Foundation, and they are free of charge. You can find them. You can download them on our website. So thank you.